What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Limited Resources. This is episode number 845. My name is Marshall. I'm one of your Limited Resources, and joining me on the line all the way from Denver, Colorado, it's Luis Scott-Vargas. Luis, we've got Q&A. We haven't done one in a while.
Yeah, I'm excited. I really like the Q&A episodes, and a big part of that is people come up with these like pretty interesting questions, and we get to talk about things we're passionate about, which we do every week because of Magic. But yeah, there's other things too. So they're always a lot of fun.
That's right, and yeah, we love doing these shows. Kind of one for us, right? We get to have a little bit of fun with it, and kind of you get to learn a little bit more about us and about the way that we see the world. So we're going to do that. Excuse me. We're also going to do Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Crack-A-Pack just to stay up on that format. And that's going to be the show today. First off, though, we want to say thank you to everybody who supports us on Patreon. It's patreon.com/limited resources if you'd like to support us there. We'd also like to thank Ultimate Guard for their support of the show. We're actually streaming live right now on Ultimate Guard's Twitch page, and we do that once a month now as part of our deal with Ultimate Guard. And that means that you get to see us behind the scenes. We also do this for our patrons every week, but once a month we'll do it for the Ultimate Guard stream. So hi to everybody who's watching us on there. And if you want to make sure to check that, it's Ultimate Guard Live over on Twitch. Ultimate Guard makes the best stuff in the business to protect your cards, your decks, and your collection. Sleeves, deck boxes, binders, backpacks, everything you need from beginning to end for your Magic cards. Whether you're using them to play in tournaments or whether you're a hardcore collector, they've got the best stuff in the business. They use premium materials and really well thought out designs, and they combine those into a fantastic product. You can check them out at ultimateguard.com, and you can pick up their stuff at your favorite online retailer or local game store. Thank you, Ultimate Guard. We do appreciate it. I was going to do this Patreon question of the week, but I'll actually save it for next week because we're going to be answering so many questions on the Q&A. We'll let those be the Patreon question of the week. But two things to cover here, Luis, before we get into the Q&A. One of them is this Crack-A-Pack for Ninja Turtles. And I also just wanted to touch base on Ninja Turtles. Two main things that I wanted to bring up with you, Luis. One of them was we had a win-a-box, an Arena Direct on the weekend. I wanted to check in with you to see if you'd played it or if you had any thoughts on that. And then the other one is just your take on the format as it sits right now. I know that we were both like pleasantly surprised to find this to be maybe a bit more of a format than we had expected, given the expectations coming over from Spider-Man. And I want to know if that's held true for you.
Yeah, so I didn't do too many of the winner boxes. I'd played one, had a pretty good blue-red artifacts deck, and just like went 0-2, just got completely smashed. And I was just like, yeah, I can kind of sit this one out. I've been feeling like they've gone back to the win-a-box / Arena Direct plus limited weekend quite often. A lot of places to spend gems. Cube's going to come back at the end of the month. So I wasn't in a hurry to burn through a bunch of gems if I wasn't really feeling it. And, I've been playing a lot of Slay the Spire 2 and Once Upon a Galaxy. So I've got some competition when it comes to Magic. And I do think the format is fine, though. Like, I think that Black-White, it seems like it's been a bit of an uptick. And more than that, the games you lose to Black-White can kind of be lopsided. That's just the sneak mechanic. It requires having unblocked things, and it's so dramatically different when they play like, a Beavers or a Pigeon on turn one versus not. Right. And I am at the point where, like, if they play the one-drop flyer, either one, I just feel like, okay, I'm going to lose this game. It
feels like that. It does.
But I like multicolor decks. I like the artifact decks. So I've had plenty of fun playing the format, and I'm ready to move on to the next format. And I'm not saying I'm not, but this was definitely more than just a let's just skip this and move on. It was not that at all. And Turtles gets to blame Spider-Man for that. There's a consequence to making bad sets. A bad set makes you not want to try future ones, and Spider-Man definitely did that for us and a lot of other people.
That's right. Yeah, I think the Turtle set definitely checks the box on what a small set should be or could be. I don't know why they're doing small sets. Like, they went away from it a long time ago, and everybody thought that was a really good move. All of us limited players love that move. The shoehorning in the small sets in the block structure for draft was, they tried to fix it by reversing the order in which we opened the packs to try to give a little bit of shine to the new small set that had come out. but it just never really clicked. And when they went to standalone big sets, it was like so much better for limited. The consistency improved, and we got, deep, interesting formats, at least possible every single time they came out. Now we're kind of back to, okay, I guess we're just getting random small sets, which my assumption is that this is a limitation on how many, basically R&D, how many cards they can produce in a year. I mean, if the bosses came in and said, okay, boys, it's going to be 7 sets a year, full sets, go. I mean, that's got to be horrible, right? Like they must just be like, we can't do that. So I assume that a few of these Universes Beyond sets end up with, the tag of getting the smaller set. But for limited, that's not a good thing. Like it makes it very difficult to have a really great, fully fleshed out set. That said, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, you can tell that they put a lot of love into this one. It has a much different feel than Spider-Man. There's a bunch of cool little things that pop up, Bebop and Rocksteady together, and just all these neat little interactions that you're like, oh, that's cool. Really good job with the design of this set. If you're going to aim for just 5 archetypes, this is what it should look like. So yeah, it's kept my attention and I keep drafting it. I had kind of a weird weekend for the Arena Direct. I played a bunch on Friday and then a decent amount on Saturday because I had a really full day planned for Sunday and I knew I wasn't going to be able to play that much. And then I woke up Sunday and I was sick. And I was like, okay, well now I have to cancel all my plans and I'm just going to sit here and play these Arena Direct. So I played this a ton. Yeah. I mean, I went nuts on it. And it was interesting. I had a similar experience to a few that I've had where, I don't know, the emotional feel is that you're just getting your teeth kicked in. I just, a lot of O2s where I felt like I had a decent deck and just was not competitive. I felt like I was running kind of bad, but that's always hard to determine. I did end up winning 2 boxes, but I mean, I took a ton of tries to do it. And, I did a little experiment because I've kind of got the vibe from multiple groups of player types that they feel that these are very difficult and that they, I've seen a lot of complaints about that same kind of vibe that I had where you feel like you're just getting smashed. And I ran some numbers and like, it is actually quite difficult. I mean, anytime you have to get to 7 wins before you get your second loss, even if you have a pretty darn good win rate, is going to be very difficult. It's harder than you think. If you're 50-50, it's like, I think it's 3% or something that you do it. Like if you're a 50-50 gamer. So that's like really, really tough. But, but on top of it, I also just on Sunday just tracked my wins and losses just on a Post-it note, just out of curiosity. Like I never do that. And I was like, well, I know how I feel. I don't know how I'm actually doing it. And at the end of the day, I checked it and I was 16-16. I was exactly breaking.
There's a program you can use.
I know
17 lands.
I know I'm on a Mac and it's harder to set up for that. But you have to open up the terminal, which I know you don't know what that is, Luis.
It would probably be easier to vibe code an app than use a Post-it note, right?
Okay,
but then the record, it'll just kind of randomize what it tells you.
Yeah, well, it'll just be like, great job.
Great job, Marshall.
Yeah.
This
is why you're such a special, great person.
It's like, not a losing streak. It's resilience and training.
Yeah, oh my God. That's so good. That is so good, Luis. Yeah, I want you to be my new AI. I like it. Always keep me pumped up. But 16-16 is actually a bad record, especially for me. I should have a better win rate than that. But I had a very bad day.
I would say even for you, but yeah.
Fair. Maybe that's true. But I had a really, I felt like I was just getting my teeth kicked in all day long. And the truth is I wasn't. I went 15-15, but how those losses came does matter. Like when you go 0-2 into 0-2 and you thought you had a decent deck, it's like, what am I doing here? So anyway, it was interesting, but I did play an absolute ton of it. So I've got a lot of reps with Turtles now from draft and the weekend there. Anyway, let's do our crack a pack for it real quick here, Luis. We'll just kind of buzz through it. First up is very solid common, April O'Neil, the one in a white
Kenichi Warrior or something
Kenichi
like that.
Trainee, yeah.
Trainee, yeah. Yeah,
super
good card.
solid.
This is like the headliner card for me of why legendary common creatures are just like, not very good. Like I don't like it. Is Cheon saying, hey, I have 6 of these. How many can I play? I want to play all 6, but I know that's bad. And it's like, yeah, you should probably play like 3 or 4.
Yep.
I don't know. You can't play 6.
Yep.
But anyways, it's a good card.
Very good card. Yeah. The sneak deck requires a couple of things to really pop off. And one of them are 1 or 2 mana plays that you're actually happy to put back into your hand. And April O'Neil's kind of the headliner for that. The uncommons at the 1-drop slot, the beavers and the pigeon are the other, all stars in that way. But at common, April O'Neil's like the big thumbs up for that. And then you also need cheap sneak creatures, ideally, like this next one, Leonardo Big Brother. That's the 2 and a white 1/3 with sneak white and gets +1/+0 for your number of creatures. Not my favorite. Like this is not the best of the bunch, but I don't cut Leonardo Big Brother from any sneak deck.
Yeah, and you shouldn't. It's obviously fine. I think it's worse than April O'Neil, but it's a solid card.
Yeah, I agree. Next is Hamato Guardian Stance. This is the white pump spell, +1/+3, flying and scry 1. I never play it. I just find that I don't have room for it in the decks that I run. Even though the sneak deck should put up some high leverage combat trick scenarios where people feel compelled to block or trade, but I don't ever run it.
I kind of feel like you probably should run more than 0 of these. Like I bet you slightly under run this card, but I'm not going to argue that you certainly shouldn't be taking it. And it's not like I take it super highly or whatever. I just think that my guess is that 0 is not the right number.
And I am on 0. So I don't know what it is or at what point I would do it, but I think
right. I know what it is. It's that you don't like combat tricks.
I mean, I generally don't, but I mean, in a deck like this, I thought I would. Like I would have, you know what I mean? Like this is the type of deck that really can leverage a combat trick because people just, they feel like they have to block.
Yeah.
To not let you sneak. Next up is Scrollanoids. This is the black 1/1 Death Touch. Very good card. Again,
another great common ninja enabler here for sure.
Totally. They don't want to block it. And of course it only costs 1 mana. So while it doesn't have the benefit of like April O'Neil where you're like, sweet, I get to recast this. It does have the benefit of being so cheap that you don't mind. You just put it back on the battlefield, sometimes even that turn. Next is Retro Mutation. That's the 2 and a blue flash enchant creature that makes it an 0/1 turtle with no abilities that cannot attack. Can block, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think this card also ends up being pretty good. I
play it.
I think that they've definitely cracked the code a little bit more on like how to make these cards good. Like it's kind of like the 4 mana bounce spell. Like I feel like there was a while where the blue bounce spell and the like transformer creature cards weren't very good, and now they've generally been pretty good.
Agreed. Yeah, this one's totally fine. Next is Null Group Biological Assets. This is the 2 and a red 3/1 with first strike on your turn, and whenever it attacks, you can discard a card, and if you do, draw a card. This one's interesting. This one's a little bit in my blind spot too. Really hard to argue with the stats on this thing, right? I mean, that is a lot of stats to give and abilities and stuff to give a common. But the fact that it's not an artifact like really hurts it for me. I'm more often if I'm playing red in blue red rather than white red, and that makes it difficult. I end up not playing this very often, although I do occasionally.
Yeah, I'm always suspicious of artifact payoffs that aren't artifacts, just because a lot of the time you just cut those before you don't cut artifacts and you don't cut the really good payoffs. This is just like the medium type, like okay card for an artifacts deck. But
I mean, it doesn't even go in the art. Like it doesn't even care about artifacts, right? It's just.
Yeah, it just looks like a vaguely aggressive card that can help you loot and put stuff together or whatever.
Yeah, and there are cards and artifacts that care about stuff in the yard, but like you said, when I go down the priority list, I'm like, is it an artifact? Like that's my first thing. And then does it care about artifacts? And then what are my payoffs? And Null Group Biological Assets, the most succinct name they've ever come up with there, doesn't fit any of those. And so it's just too easy for it to end up card number 24, 25, 26. Yeah. Next card's really good. Again, Orokusaki Shredder Rising. This is the 2 and a black 3/1 that when it hits them, you lose life and draw a card. And it has importantly sneak for 1 and a black.
This is the card that when they play it always feels like this is the ninja card. They started with a 1-drop into this and you're like, but
you watch your win percentage just plummet.
It's a good card. pretty bad when you're doing poorly. Like it doesn't work that well when your stuff isn't working, but it's still a solid card even if you're not ninjaing it, and it's very, very good. And when you are, it's obviously very, very strong.
Yeah, the only thing it really doesn't want to see is the bots, whatever it's called, the 1/1 flying vigilance for 1 and a blue. It's like that is this thing's natural enemy. Next common is Tenderize. That's the 1 and a green instant target creature you control deals damage. It bites. Very good card.
Yeah. Make something nice and tender.
Yeah. There's a lot of death touch around. You know, if you're green black, you get Scrollanoids, and you also get Frog Butler. So that's really nice both at common, and then being in green, there are also plenty of just big creatures that you can use with Tenderize. Good.
I'm basically never happy first picking a green fight card, but it's obviously a fine card. It's just
it is.
I always gonna hope that you can do a little bit better than that.
Last common is Action News Crew. That's the 1 and a white 2/2 with Vigilance and Channel 6. Put a +1/+1 counter on each of your creatures and draw a card.
Yeah, strong card.
It's fine.
I mean,
yeah,
it just does exactly what you want. Like it's flexible. It's either like medium early or pretty solid late.
But
I had a funny situation against this card actually, where they played it on turn 2, and my turn 3 play was the bow, the bounce equipment, and I was like,
you don't want to give them the opportunity to make a better play.
Well, see, because it's like you don't play that card on turn 2 unless that's your only 2-drop. You'd rather kind of keep it for later if you can.
Yeah.
But then
they're going to go 3-4.
Yeah, and I was just like, well, I guess I have to play this. Ultimately, I did play it, and then they ended up replaying their guy, so it's like it wasn't a disaster. But I can just imagine, you play it, and then they go 3, 4, 5, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I put a good late game card into their deck.
Right, I helped them out. Yeah. Next card I like a lot. It's Shredder's Technique. This is the 2 and a black sorcery. Destroy a creature or enchantment. If it's an enchantment, you lose 2 life, but it has Sneak for black. So you can get it down to 1 mana and pseudo instant speed as well. And that's very powerful. Flexible too.
Yeah. I'm liking Shredder's Technique well enough here. I think that's probably where I would be.
Yeah, it's where I'd be right now too. Although the next card might change your mind. It's Courier of Comestibles.
What do you mean might? No, we're eating that pizza, man. Are you trying to argue you're not taking this card?
I was just saying it might change your mind. It's 1 and a green for a 1/2, and when it ETBs, you can search up a food, and if you don't do that, then you get to just create a food. It's a pizza delivery guy. Awesome. I love that card.
It's just so good. It even gives you the like fail case of like, oh, you don't have anything left? Here, get a food. He's going to deliver one way or another.
He's going to deliver. Yeah. So this allows you to search up, a wide range of things like everything pizza, if that's the deck you're in, and that's where this really shines. But it also can get Pizza Face. It can get the cat, the 1/3, the ice cream cat or whatever it's called. Or it can go get, the other pizza that just draws you a card and makes you a different color of mana. So that's a whole lot of different things to be able to get with it. And like you said, even if you've exhausted all of those, it still just makes it.
Your average black-green deck, you play this, it can either get the ice cream kitty, the anchovy banana pizza, or sometimes, like a pizza face, like a bomb of some kind. So it's like your 2-mana thing tutors up a removal, a blocker, a bomb, or just gives you a food if you got nothing else to do. Right. Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, the anchovy banana pizza too is probably its best target. Last uncommon is Casey Jones, Jury Rig, whatever. Just this year, it's 1 and a red for a 2/1 haste, and when it enters, you look at the top 4 cards of your library. You can reveal an artifact card from them, and then put it into your hand and put the rest on the bottom in a random order. I always run this in my artifact decks, but I'm not actually that impressed by it. It feels like you kind of give up a lot by playing this thing. It's still a 2-for-1, so I'll take it. But
yeah, I think basically what this card is like if it misses, you're pretty unhappy. And if it hits, it's like, this is okay. Or it's slightly better than okay. Yeah. So like, I do like the card, but this feels a little like a reverse lottery where you're satisfied when it hits and unhappy when it misses. Exactly. So it's like, you're not like thrilled either way. Like the Courier, it never misses.
Right. And then our rare is Improvised Arsenal. This is the 1 and a red equipment. The creature gets +1/+0 for each artifact you control, and the equip cost is just red. And then you can pay 4 and a red to create a token that's a copy of this equipment. So if the game goes late, you run out of gas, you can actually just start paying 5 mana plus another red to get another one of these things on the board and equipped. It's pretty cool.
I mean, I would be pretty happy to take this card if the courier wasn't in the pack, but because the courier is, I'd rather just take that.
I'm taking the courier too. Okay, let's get to our Q&A questions here, Luis. Let's see what our dear patrons have asked of us. Oh, this could get ugly, Luis. You don't know, right? It could be anything. Let me load up all of the comments here before we dive in. All right, first question comes from Hans, who says, "What is the best barbecue meat?"
Honestly, I think
that's
it's brisket.
Q&A. That's Q&A start.
The first thing I always get when I go to a new barbecue place is brisket, because if they do brisket well, first of all, that means that I'm already happy going there. Like, you don't need to do much more than that. I guess if you went to a place and none of their sides were good and none of their other meats were good and just the brisket was good, that's tough, especially if you have people with you who don't want just brisket. But you don't need much. I think one of the things that people kind of get wrong about not just barbecue places, just places in general, are you don't need a restaurant to make 5 dishes you like. You really just need it to make the one. If they make the one that's great, like, who cares about anything else? It's part of the reason that kind of like the mono dish places tend to be among the favorite ones, like Hattie B's, Nashville Fried Chicken, In-N-Out makes burgers, or Chick-fil-A. Like, these places are specialty. They make the one thing. I'm sure that you can find a bagel place like that or a biscuit place like that. It's all you are going all in. If the thing you make isn't good, then you're completely sunk. You don't have the Cheesecake Factory, I have 150 things on the menu sort of deal to defend you. But if you go to a place that's like, this makes the best brisket you've ever had and everything else sucks, like, I would still think that's pretty good.
Yeah, I think about that a lot with a lot of different things in life, not just with food or restaurants, but with everything. There's really, I thought about this, in fact, with like the Watch YouTube channel. Right? Like, at first I was like, well, I can do different types of videos on it. And really early I was like, no, I think that, like, when people come here, I want them to know exactly what they're getting. And I don't want to ever throw them a curveball where they're like, well, I wanted to sit down and watch this restoration, and now I got to hear this guy talk about what he thinks about some watch release. They're like, nah, that's not for me. And I think that's definitely true with the barbecue. Places and meat, as it turns out. Next question comes from Joshua, who says, "Hey guys, I just got my first vintage cube together. Very excited. What would be the best way to get people interested in trying it or to keep a play group together? Most of my friends are mostly interested in Commander or other TCGs. Have you found ways offline or keeping a group together / keeping interest in playing in person?" And actually, Jeremy responded and said, "Hey Joshua, I just saw this post and wanted to say that I hope you find a great group. About a year ago, I started a group to cube with at my local game store. We meet roughly once a month." That's awesome, Jeremy. Thanks for adding that. Luis, you're in a weird situation because you moved to Denver and then you dragged about half of the California Magic professional scene with you. And now you're just surrounded by people who automatically love cube.
And yet...
Well,
we don't cube that often.
But life is hard. If you wanted to, you could, right? Like, if you know what I mean. Like, if you had the time for it, If
you wanted to, he would. I think that if I had a burning desire to cube live, I could make that happen. Certainly more often than I do now, and I will get to do that more. I know I'm just in a season of life where I don't have a lot of that time. I think that there's not like one way to maintain and obtain this play group. I think being open to meeting new people is definitely part of it, because if your current group of friends is not as into it or won't do it as reliably, one of the ways to do that is to find people who will. Like, you can do that. You're allowed to make new friends. I know it can be hard, but you are, and like going to a local game store or using a Discord. I'm sure that if you live in any reasonable sized city, there's like a number of probably like city Magic Discord type groups. These used to be Facebook groups. I guess more have migrated to Discord, and you can find like-minded people and you can try to get that going. I think that's a big part of it. You have to be the person. Basically, I found as a frequent organizer of events and the person driving the ship, which again, I've stepped back from that, which is why it's happening less often. But when I was doing that, you just have to be the person in control and don't spend a lot of time asking other people like trying to get other people to do that stuff. I think the best way to do it is be like, instead of, hey, when do you guys want a cube? It's like, here's 3 dates. Vote for the date that you want. And if you get enough votes, just run it on that date. Or if people can't make it those dates, maybe they then suggest something. But the more you can put in front of people, here is a multiple choice, pick the thing that works best for you, and you take care of all the details, and you be, all right, we're cubing at my house 2:00 on Saturday, XYZ, you bring some drinks, other 3 people, you bring some snacks, or I'll have it all, or whatever it is. The more often you're going to be successful. You have the cube, you do all the things. And obviously that's more burden on you, but you're the one who wants to make it happen. And then you make it happen. And I find it very satisfying to make things happen. And I like things happening the way I want them to happen. Being the organizer lets you do that,
Yeah. It's funny. I was going to give the exact same advice, Luis. If you want to make this actually go, this should be a dictatorship. Like, I'm an American. Exactly. I'm a, democracy first guy. But when it comes to this type of stuff, you tell people when it's happening and then see if you get the thing. Because, it's a vintage cube. It sells itself. It's an amazing experience once people kind of get their, legs under them about it. But the question is, if I get yet another text inviting to something and I have to decide something or I have to give my input or it's a big group discussion, the other thing I would say that's an extension of this is if you make it regular, like the 3rd Monday of every month, I am doing a cube draft. You are invited. I will send you a reminder, and you can tell me if you're coming, right? But like, this is happening. Like, put that out there into the world that because the thing is, what I found is that really, if you just tell people when it's going to be, then they can decide if they can plan around that or not. And if you get one of your friends that says, well, I'm never available on that day. Okay, fine. Then maybe you start to move it around a little bit. But, if you set the date, then say, if you want to be here, then this is how this is going to work, rather than asking people what they think about it. Good luck with it, Joshua. It looks, it's the best. And if you get a good group going, it is awesome. Next question comes from Todd, who says, the bad news. Aliens are attempting to take over Earth. The good news, they are incredibly intelligent and revere 2 pieces of Earth media. One is Space Jam, and the other is Luis's... I see
where this is going, by the way.
And the other is Luis's YouTube channel. As such, they are challenging the citizens of Earth to a 4v4 for control of the planet, and Luis is the point of contact. I'm terrified.
Unwise on Earth's point of view, but
I am terrified that you're the point of contact for this. I missed the message. Who should he put on the team? The best all-around Magic player.
I missed the message. Of the 2 of us, who's more likely to miss a message and not respond?
You.
I don't know, man. It depends on the context.
It might be close.
Here's what I'm going to say.
I'm not trying to, I don't want to overstate it.
No, actually, it's a little more nuanced. I think the average message, I'm probably a little more likely to miss than you. Mm-hmm. But when you have decided in a specific conversation that you're not really going to be checking it, you can just lights out and not look for months. That's kind of more how I feel.
That is accurate, painfully accurate. Okay, so Todd says, who should he put on the team? The best all-around Magic players like Finkel Paulo, the entire Jakobovits family? Who is that?
That's JJ and the rest of his family. He qualified for the cube thing.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, okay. Team draft server staples like Slacks and Quiniac, or are there a handful of people at the intersection of cube and pro-level Magics whose names aren't obvious?
Okay, well, this actually, to answer this question requires a little bit of context. I know Todd's not here to literally update us, but I'll give you the 2 answers. The one answer is, or the first question is, how much time do we have? Because let's say we have 6 months or even 3 months.
Let's say the aliens give you 3 months.
Okay, well, the 3 month answer is I would probably pick John Finkel, Nathan Stoyer, William Jensen, some combination of just the best Magic players. not people who maybe have like zero cubed or have done literally zero cubed, but we're talking about the fate of the world. If I tell Huey his job for the next 3 months is to just cube 80 hours a week, and
Yeah.
the world will provide a private chef for you, and take care of all your logistics, and we're gonna have a whole team, and we're gonna do all this. I would probably just look for the historical best Magic players, and I think.
I mean, Finkel loves cube anyway, so that's a no-brainer.
Well, the problem is he would just force Storm. Can you imagine the Earth getting destroyed because he had to take Cabal Ritual over Felia or whatever? He's just like, he opens a pack with Ocelot Pride and Lotus Petal and is just like, well, sorry guys.
Yeah,
I'm going to go down with the ship.
Play one way.
But so then I would probably, honestly, my team would probably be like, me, Finkel, Huey, and I'm even trying to think who the fourth would be. I would probably dig Owen up, actually. Owen did a ton of cubing, and he actually watches my videos still. I still chat with him. So, it's funny. We started actually talking after Kai had passed. He reached out, and he's taken up the mantle of the person who messages me with the picks I made wrong. So there's a little bit of continuity
Kai
there.
Lives on. I like that.
Yeah. But I think a little more interesting answer to the question is, what if it's like next week? What if it's like, hey, we have 16 hours. We're not doing any training. We're just like picking the people, or if it's like, even to just go more absurd, what if it's just right now? The aliens are like, hey, we're teleporting you and the 3 people you choose right now. Right now is kind of tricky because if you had asked me 6 months ago when JJ was cubing a lot, JJ is certainly one of the people who I would choose. Ely Cassis actually has currently the highest win percentage on our draft server lifetime. I'll say that mine's only slightly below his, and I've played 3 times as many matches, but still. Ely is clearly a master. When we were really practiced and up, there was a period of time about 1.5 years ago where me and Mac would draft some pretty high stakes draft against these Austrians every weekday. And at that point I would have taken him over anyone else. So I would certainly say Mac is in the running when he's fully practiced as well. Yeah, well, the people who live, breathe, and eat cube, Quiniac and I have, sadly we lost. So we're now 15-1-2 when we're on the same team together, which is a pretty nice set of stats. And then he 3-0'd the next draft, not on my team, unfortunately. So Quiniac is great. He top 8 at Worlds last year, and he plays a ton of cube and is very skilled. So yeah, it's tricky. It's this is the age-old question. Do you take who's the best White Weenie player in the world? It's well, was it the people who really liked White Weenie, or was it the people who are the best at Magic? It just depends on when you're talking or what time period you're talking. Yeah, picking Paulo for this was probably not a bad idea if he has enough time to prep. But I think if I were to go into a cube arena right now, I would. There's times when I would pick BK when BK is really up on it, that sort of thing. Tom Martell is fantastic. Is, I still think, one of the best team draft teammates you can ever have, because he does so much thinking about who's going to take what and why and what the implications are and how to take advantage of that. And he's really good at that. So the time period, my answer literally changes whether it's 0 hours, 2 weeks, or 3 months. So there's options for all of those.
I like the 3-month squad of you, Finkel, Huey, and Paulo.
Yeah. I think that would give us a pretty good shot. I'm not gonna lie.
I would be calmly losing win-a-boxes over here while you guys saved humanity. That'd be fine. Next question comes from Brian, who says, "Hi, Marshall and Luis. This is my first post." Oh, welcome, Brian. After listening for about 4 years, I don't have a lot of time to play, mostly just pre-releases with a couple of friends. But you've helped me improve my game significantly, and I frequently mention your show. Thank you, Brian. I appreciate you saying that. Of note, my 12-year-old daughter recently played in her first pre-release, and I used your keto framework to coach her in deck building. Oh, that is awesome. She went 0-3, but still had a blast and appreciated the community aspect of the game. That's really great. Hopefully she'll stick with it. I average 2-1 in sealed and won't share my 17 lands record out of embarrassment. My question is, how to cut the last few cards in limited to get to 23 spells. I have a reputation as the 44 card deck guy. I have
you don't want that reputation.
Not here. I have such a hard time making those last couple of cuts that I frequently don't. I keep those cards either because of specific synergy, mana curve, creature count, removal, or all of the above. Do you have criteria I can use to help me make cuts, or maybe reference a prior episode? And then Brian also says, finally, my suggestion, this is Brian mentioned that he had a suggestion for the show, is to put out a survey of listeners, follows, Patreons for better understanding of your audience, more out of curiosity than anything. We've actually done that in the past. I'm curious where I fall on the spectrum as a 44-year-old married father of 3 that only does 2 paper sealed events per set release, plus 2 arena drafts per month. Cheers, Brian. I think you're, right in that.
We probably are due to do another big
it's
survey.
It's been a long time. Yeah,
it would be a good idea. That's a good idea, Brian.
Last time, and it was really interesting.
As someone I would say a very similar demographic, except for the fact that I do a lot more drafts on Arena.
Yeah, yeah. Turns out it's your job. So how can we, Brian? I need you to commit. No more 44 card decks ever. Like the last one that you built is the last time that you do this, because this discipline is really, really important, both in your win rate and just sort of fundamentally for Magic, but it also reflects your approach to the game and then to other things. You have to strive to be optimal at these things. And if you're just accepting a 44 card deck and not really holding yourself to that higher standard, you are giving away win percentages every single time you do that. And we got to get you off that train. I think one of the things that doesn't stand out necessarily, Luis, is that, Brian said specific synergy, mana curve, creature count, those type of things. But anytime that you give a concession to one of those and keep extra cards in your deck, you are inherently taking away spots from the other things that normally would have a higher percentage of your deck, right? If you say, well, I want to keep my creature count at 15, so I'm going to keep these extra 4 creatures in and I'm going to run this 44 card deck. Well, you are diluting your spell count.
You're also diluting yourself.
Synergy count, yeah. So how can Brian reach deep inside and find that discipline to cut down to 40?
It can be painful, but the way I kind of look at it is, it gives you a really good sense, and you'll get better and better of what matters. And some of the heuristics I use. I mean, we talked a little bit about like the artifact deck. When I play an artifact deck, like whether it's in cube or regular limited, a deck that's looking for a critical mass, right? Because you've got a Tolarian Academy or you've got whatever artifact payouts are in this set. I start by saying like, okay, let's first look at all the cards that are not artifacts or even say the word artifact on them in any capacity. And we'll cut from there. And usually that gives you, let's say you need to cut like 5 cards. Usually you can probably cut like at least 3 right away where it's like, hey, this card's not a good removal spell and isn't an artifact. This is a random creature that does not have anything to do with my theme. Just cut those things. You want your theme to play. You want to give it room to breathe. Then you have to make some tough cuts. And really, I think that, again, to lean on heuristics, because we're talking in a general fashion here, look at the top of your curve first. You do want to make sure you have ways to finish the game, but do you need the 3rd, 5th?
Well, it looks like we lost Luis here for a minute. But I don't think he knows that yet. I will let him go.
Then look at the more expensive cards, work your way down the curve.
You're back.
And then you got to make, you are back. I saw you froze for a second. And then you got to make some tough cuts. But at the end of it, here, you can go ahead and blame Marshall specifically and just you channel your frustration into him, but then cut the card and know that he's not going to be yelling at you afterwards.
I will take the hit if it gets him down to 40 cards. Absolutely. Yeah. It is so important that you do that, Brian. You also, Luis, I got the answer. You have to set an example for your 3 children, right? I mean, maybe
I would say, or at least 2 of them.
Yeah. For your daughter who's there with you watching, you can't be like, I learned it from watching you, Dad, as she starts playing these 44 card decks. I don't know if you mentioned it because it kind of cut out there, Luis, but what about mana pips? Like that can be a place, right? If you're on like the
that's a great example. Mm-hmm. You're let's say you're playing a blue-white deck, and you're regular limited. You've got no dual lands, It would behoove you to cut, let's say, 2 double blue cards. Now you have no double blue cards. You only have double white cards, and you can play like a 10-7 or even 9-8 mana base in favor of planes and be a little bit more consistent. That's also a good kind of like way to be like, all right, make a tiebreaker at least to make a decision between those things.
Thanks for the question, Brian. And thanks for joining us on Patreon, too. Next up is from Kyle, who says, Marshall, with the likely return of the Supersonics, oh boy, who would be your pack one, pick one for their roster, keeping in mind their first season won't be until 2028? He says, has to be Wemby, right? So Kyle's referring, of course, to my beloved Seattle Supersonics basketball team. They've been gone since 2008, and they are holding a vote next week to continue to go forward with plans to expand the NBA from 30 teams to 32 teams, one here and one in Las Vegas. We have been teased many times as Sonics fans that the Sonics were going to come back in a variety of different ways. So with that in mind, I'm keeping myself on the even keel and recognizing that really anything can happen. That said, this is definitely the best news that we've ever had about them coming back. It's the most realist. People are assuming it's going to happen at this point. The news, sports news and stuff is just talking about how it's going to work and what an expansion draft looks like and all that kind of stuff. And what Kyle's asking is, who would I want on the team? And I think he did answer his own question here. Victor Wembanyama, 7'5" guy with skills like many of the guards in the NBA, is kind of a cheat code. Really one of the most unique players we've seen in a really long time, and has basically an unlimited ceiling. Like if he can stay healthy for the long run, he actually has a chance to be considered the GOAT. And there's not that many people that can knock on that door. Obviously, he's not a favorite to do so, but there's very, very few people that you'd realistically look at in their second, third year in the league and say, no, this person legitimately has a chance to be the best basketball player of all time. And Wemby is one of those few people. He is. So yeah, that is who I would take if I could have anybody, Kyle, for sure. I'm keeping, until I see a basketball hit the floor over at Climate Pledge or wherever they end up playing, I'm just very zen about it, even keeled. I'm not going to let myself get too excited. James says, what era of vintage cube is your favorite? I know LSV has a retro cube, for example, and not a question, but he does request, Jim here requests that we bring back Let's Stump Vargas, which we've done.
We should. We haven't been doing it too much though. But
no, we can pepper some in for sure.
Honestly, this era is my favorite era of vintage cube. I don't know how you would split the eras exactly, but I feel that cube has, over the last couple of years, especially as people, the fact that with the advent of online tools, well, CubeCover's been around for a while, DraftMaster's been around for a while, but putting those together, using Discord to organize cubes, and of course now it's basically always on Magic Online or Arena in some form or fashion. But there was a while where that wasn't the case, and this is where the draft servers kind of came from. We were drafting all the time when we couldn't do those. We still do them because team drafts are fun, but there's a slightly less need for them. Once that all started happening, though, and everyone's really had eyes on Cube, I feel like the lists have just gotten better. I look back at the Retro Cube list. When I made my Retro Cube list, it has a lot of cards that we did not have in Cubes back then. It cut a lot of the cards that people were like, oh, this is obviously a Cube staple. And that just shows to me that much like if you went back long enough and looked at constructed decks, you would find stuff that you'd be like, oh, wait, people aren't playing, 4 brainstorms in this deck, or they aren't playing all the fetch lands, stuff like that. Flash just really wasn't in cubes until a couple of years ago. And now it's obviously just a staple. It's a really cool card and it works really well. So I like it because I feel like cube's gotten just better and better over time. So the current era is kind of my favorite.
Yeah, I would say it's either now or right before the non-core product cards came in. I really like that era too. I mean, I have a fondness for when I first started playing Cube, which was a really long time ago. That was when Upheaval was the card and stuff. I definitely have a nostalgia, but my favorite, I think, would either be right now. I think it's really great, or right before those other, one of the things that I really liked about Cube is that it had this element of cards that I remembered having played or commentated in my case or whatever and constructed from a long history of, oh, this used to be in that deck, or remember this card. And when the cards from supplemental products started kind of being pushed really, really hard and ended up being cube worthy, and then commonly included in cube, they feel like good additions to the cube. Like as a card, I don't have a complaint, which is why I think probably right now is the best that cube's been. But they do completely lack that context that I had where I remember opening these or collecting them or playing with them in a deck or commenting, that kind of stuff, where if they're, from some random commander thing or something like that. So it's one of those two for me. I probably would just stick with what we have now. There's many of the cards that come from that type of product that I really like and that I wouldn't want to see go away. So, it's not really a knock on the cards themselves, but there is, I believe, a slightly purer form of cube, that uses the cards kind of that are more in the heavy rotation of an average Magic player. Jonathan says, hello there, my dudes. I've played a ton of Slay the Spire 1, and I'm loving the second one. It's fun to see Luis doing some runs on his YouTube channel. I want to know what relic is Luis's favorite and why is it Unceasing Top? And then he says, Marshall, you should definitely check out Slay the Spire as well. In lieu of you having Slay the Spire experience, what's your favorite artifact? Oh, I see.
So Unceasing Top is an artifact that says when you have no cards in your hand, draw a card. So it gives you, it's just like a Sensei's Top of sorts, where you can just keep drawing cards as long as you made a deck full of like zeros and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Which obviously is pretty fun.
I
really do like that card. It is one of the most fun cards. A couple ones I like. It's a little bit boring. I like Thorns or Bronze Scales, where every time you get attacked, they take 3 damage. And the reason I liked it is you can build a really defensive deck and just do block, 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 and they just kill themselves by attacking you. And then there's one Brilliant Scarf, which is the 5th card you play is free. And that's really fun because you get to like line up, like cards in this game typically cost between like 0 and 3 mana. There's some outliers, and 3 is really expensive. Most of the cards you cast cost 1 mana. Setting up a 2 or 3 mana card to be free is always pretty satisfying.
And then I guess since I don't know about that, they're asking what my favorite artifact is from Magic.
I would assume so, yeah.
Yeah, first couple that come to mind. I mean, I love artifacts. Like when I first started playing Magic after, like a couple years after Magic came out, and I was in high school, and I didn't play competitively. In fact, I almost never even played like actual games, but I really like building decks. And I guess I was trying to be like a combo player or something, because I would try to find these synergies from just like the pile of cards that I owned and try to build it. And I remember one of the decks that I had built was around Snake Basket. And
classic card. It's a 4-mana artifact, and you can pay X and sacrifice it at sorcery speed to make X 1/1 snakes. Ole Rade won his invitational card, Sylvan Safekeeper, with a Snake Basket deck.
Oh man, I didn't know that. I probably should have tried to find that list back in the day. And then I that deck I had. What's the altar that lets you sack a creature to make 2 mana?
Ashnod's Altar.
Yeah, Ashnod's Altar. And then I had some green creature that doubled your tokens or doubled something. So like if you had all 3 of those, you could spit out a bunch of 1/1s and then just lose the game to something with shadow or whatever. So that was one of my original favorites. And my original favorite artwork and a card that I always wanted, I ended up buying it like maybe 10 or 12 years ago now or something, is Time Vault.
Time Vault's awesome.
Yeah, my first favorite artist was Mark Tadine. It still is. He's still on my list. And he did the artwork for it. I was always fascinated by the art, but I could never afford the card itself because even back in the day, it was expensive. But then I actually ended up buying it off of Corbin from Coverage, Corbin Hustler, the Hustler. He had one that he buys and sells cards, and he was doing that quite a bit back in the day. And he gave me a really good deal on one, so I picked it up. I still have it. Should I get that graded or something, Luis? Is that something I need to care about?
I mean, it would depend how nice it is, but yeah.
Maybe I'll send you a picture of it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Next question comes from Paul, who says, I think it's time we address the real reason behind LR's longevity, the fuel of every set review. Uh-oh, this is Good timing for those on video. Arnold Palmer's. I recently got into drinking these during the day, and they are delicious. How do you make them? What tea are you using? Do you make your own tea and put it in the fridge? Do you keep it with the lemon juice? Fun fact, I'm originally French, and limonade is not lemonade, but more akin to like Sprite in France. So I first started having tea with Sprite Zero, and it's also pretty good if you feel adventurous. And if you feel really adventurous, ask producer Jeff about rock shandy, although its popularity may depend on the Irish region. Okay, we'll bring Jeff in just a second if he doesn't mind to tell us about if he knows what a rock shandy is. This is the best question I've ever gotten, Luis. I literally have an AP in my hand right now. I'm very passionate about this subject. Nobody ever cares except for Brian David Marshall. And now I have my platform in front of me. So I've made APs a bunch of different ways over the years. I have a pitcher that has a tea filter in it. And so you put the tea in and it's attached to the lid and that goes into the pitcher and then it brews the tea. You can do sun tea, but I don't like to do that. I just do it in the fridge. And after a couple of days, you take out the middle part of the lid and you can throw away the extra stuff. And then boom, you've got your freshly brewed tea there. I also will buy it in a bottle from the store, unsweetened black tea. That's what you want. There are other ways to make APs and they are good, but if you're asking me, unsweetened black tea, that's what I want. And then lemonade, it is the best if you make the lemonade. I never do that. I'm way too lazy. So I buy it in a bottle from the store. And now the last two ingredients or last two things to consider. One, your ratio. This is really important. This is really, really important. The ratio is what makes or breaks it. A lot of people think that an Arnold Palmer, and by the way, I guess we never said what it actually is. It's lemonade and iced tea mixed together. That's it. But it is like the best thing to drink, I think, because it has enough flavor and complexity that it doesn't get boring, but it is not like soda or something like that where you're just jamming, a ton of, sugar and that kind of stuff. And that's where the ratio comes in. A lot of people think that it's a lemonade drink with some iced tea in it, but it's not. It's the other way around. My ratio,
at least the good ones are. My
ratio is close to 1 to 3. So 25% lemonade. I would even say it's probably like closer to 20 is what I actually aim for. Like seriously, like this one I have right here for those on video, I've drank about half of it, but I will fill up this much of the glass with lemonade and this much with iced tea and water. Iced tea and ice. So the ratio, I think a good beginner ratio is between 25 and 33%. So a quarter to a third lemonade and then all the rest iced tea. And then the other thing to consider is ice. I'm a big ice guy. I think it's an American thing. I don't know, but like I have one of those Pebble ice maker things. Like seriously, the ones that, yeah. And like, I love that thing.
Well, I'm also an inveterate ice cruncher, which I know is bad, but Pebble ice is pretty soft. So it's way better than doing that otherwise.
Totally. So I do a significant amount of ice and then think 75-25 or so for your ratio. Make sure it's nice and mixed up. I like to just shake up each of the bottles before I pour it in there. And you will be living in heaven because seriously, it is such a good drink. And if you do the calories on it, it's actually very low. It would take me 4 or 5 that I have just to have one glass of lemonade, so that takes a long time, for me. The lemonade bottles I get, I go through them very slowly. So to me, it's the best compromise where you're drinking something that's more interesting and flavorful, but it's not quite like soda. Jeff says he is going to pop on to tell us what a rock shandy is in just a couple of minutes here. So once he's ready, he can just poke his head in. Next question comes from Emery, who says, do you guys use AI tools often? What's your favorite chatbot to talk to?
I use ChatGPT sometimes. I wouldn't say I use I don't like vibe code or do any of that, but I find, I mean, look, if you use a Google search these days, the first thing it shows you is what Gemini thinks. So like a lot of the other results you're going to do are either AI generated or impacted by AI. So I kind of just use ChatGPT as my Google search bar at this point. I understand that it can just completely hallucinate things and make things up. So I'm not like taking everything it says face value without checking, but it's good at finding links to the things. Like it will say like, here is where you can read about this. And I would say that like sometimes like if you have like, a Word doc that you need cleaned up in some way, like there is, there's ways like, hey, can you reformat this list to look like this? Like it does a pretty good job of you just telling it in kind of like plain English what you want, and it'll try to do that. Like I remember when we were deciding which minivan to buy, it did a pretty good job of making pros and con lists of a bunch of different models. I thought like it's really good at like data collation and like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
With the understanding that like I've had it tell me things and I'd be like, no, that's wrong. And I'd be like, oh no, you're right. That's wrong. This is it's actually this. And it's like, okay, right. Well, my confidence level here is not high.
That's how I use it too. I do use it, but I try to use it in the areas that I'm actually confident that it's good in, rather than trying to push the boundaries and have it do things that's outside of apparently its comfort zone. I'll use it for some of my watch stuff because finding information on obscure watches can be really difficult. And it's very, very good at parsing that stuff and pointing you in a direction, like you said, Louise, kind of almost more like a better Google search. And I'll use it for research sometimes. If I want to try to get up to speed on something, that I could search up or whatever, I'll try to use it in that way. I have dipped my toe in just to see what it could do for a couple of the things that I do for work, like, and it's been very disappointing. Seriously, just like blatantly wrong with no even hint of like, this is outside my comfort zone. And the one, it's actually magic related, that was at the most hilarious was, I was writing an article, I think for Wizards or something, and I wanted to look up, maybe it was like build-arounds or something like that. I can't remember. And I thought this will be kind of funny because I didn't think it would actually be able to do anything with it. But I said, what are the best build-arounds from whatever set I was thinking about? This is like last year or something. And it spit out a few cards, and I'm like, yeah, those actually were kind of the build-arounds. Like that was a nice shortcut, for me not having to like dig them up. But one of the cards I didn't recognize the name of, but it was a Magic card name. It was whatever, very much in the Magic card name realm. But I'm like, yeah, I don't know. And so I searched up for the card, and I couldn't find it. And I was like, I'm like, this isn't in like Scryfo. Sorry, still getting over a cold. So I'm like, I just legitimately cannot find this card. And so I'm like, can you show me a picture of this card? Or, what is this card? And it was like, it couldn't find it. And I'm like, did you make up that card name? And it was like, actually, yes, I did. And I'm like, like that card doesn't exist, and you can, like, and I asked what it did, and it told me, like, the card, like, it made a card. And I'm like, yeah, never doing this again, right? Like, this is just like completely unreliable to the point. I mean, I don't like the idea of offloading my mental stuff. Like that doesn't sound like desirable to me. I do like the idea of saving time when I have a lot of information that I need to plow through, but like I never use it for like my writing. I don't use it for even for emails and stuff because I'm just like, I want to be able to do this. The other thing is
it's also just so apparent when people, I mean, look, this will change. I actually do think that people who underestimate AI kind of do it at their own peril. Because you remember when people were like, AI pictures and video look like garbage. You can always tell. Look at the hands. And it's like, yeah, but a year later, they're really, really good. Like you can still tell, but our ability to tell the difference between AI and not AI is going to go down as it gets better and better. But right now, you can tell when stuff's AI written, and it just turns on the filter in my brain like this is slop. If someone sends me a personal email that's written by AI, that's bad. It's not, you don't even have to write that many emails these days. Like, right. like same reason as like if you look at a Facebook post or Twitter post, you're scrolling and it looks like ass slop, you just don't read it. So yeah, I would not want to use it for those things.
Me too. And it's weird because you'd think having a perfectly formatted, well-reasoned, good English, all punctuation, everything good would be more impressive. Wow, you really took your time with this. But humans are so good at seeing that stuff that we're just like, yeah, no, that's AI slop. Okay, let's bring Jeff in. He says he maybe does actually know what a rock shandy is.
I do indeed, actually. It's so. What do you think it is off the top of your head?
Well, a shandy is kind of a
beer with like
a summer shandy is like a beer with lemonade, which is why I assume we're on this topic here.
Yeah,
yeah. So a shandy would be like slang for beer, particularly actually in Australia. I think it's not really used around here, but a rock shandy. It's named for a town which is now a suburb of Dublin called Blackrock, as far as my understanding of it goes. And it is a mixture of like 50-50 lemonade and orange juice, both, carbonated.
Oh.
So apparently it comes from like after rugby practice, a bunch of guys would go into, I think it was Blackrock Lounge, and they would ask for the rock shandy.
What is carbonated orange juice? Is that just
does it have beer in it too?
No, it's completely non-alcoholic.
That doesn't sound
so it's like
exciting. Sounds terrible.
Like for all the world Fanta, basically.
Yeah.
So like Fanta lemon and Fanta orange mixed.
We might need you to do a research project and go try one of these things, Jeff.
I have them all the time. They're exceptionally common.
Oh, okay. Are they good?
You can just like buy it canned like from the store.
What is it called?
Just a rock shandy.
Oh, it is. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. Just full on a rock shandy. It's my favorite soft drink.
Oh my God. Okay, so Jeff definitely knows what it is. It's his favorite. Wow, yeah, producer Jeff just coming in with the knowledge. Notes, I guess. That's great. Thanks, Jeff. Wow.
You're very welcome.
Producer Jeff adds to the show in so many ways. Next up comes from Blue Beats, who says, Dear Marshall and Luis, I really appreciate all the recent content diving into the Arena Powered Cube as a newcomer to the format. Any plans to discuss other cube types or cube design heuristics for LSV as a soon-to-be dad in 2 months? Any tips to survive the early weeks and months? Thanks for everything. And looking forward to watching cube videos when on night shift duty with the little one.
Well, first of all, congrats and good luck. I think that really the best you can do to organize your life such that you have very few responsibilities outside of the baby. And I understand not everyone has this luxury, but hopefully, certainly mom is not going to be going to work, right? Postnatal. But hopefully you can take some time off yourself, because when you first get a baby, it is like, that is the only thing you're really capable of doing. Try to line up, again, without knowing the specifics of what you got going on, friends or family who can maybe provide, like, this is the time. If you, this can go out to people who have friends. Yeah. If you have a friend who's about to have a baby, I want you to hear this too. This is the time you can help them out the most by just taking stuff off their plate, whether that means bringing food by, helping clean up, and depending how close of friends you are, of course, you're not going to go into someone's house and start cleaning if you don't know well, but helping just with any easing of burdens that they have that are not directly taking care of the baby, because it's a lot. And when the baby sleeps, you try to sleep, you're not going to get as much sleep as you want to. I still don't, but and just know it gets better. You start to learn what the baby needs and how it needs it. And, it feels overwhelming and it feels like a ton, but a lot of humans have done this and a lot will continue to do this. And the first time you do it, you're not going to know anything about it. So the more you can just go in with like a very agile mindset of like, I'm going to learn what I need to learn. It's going to work out the way it needs to work out. I'm going to try my best to like be there for both baby and mom and yourself. Like, you need to make sure that you're functional too. It's like, the example you always use is like, you put on your oxygen mask before helping your kid in the event of an airplane crash. Well, it's kind of true here too, where you need to make sure you're eating, you're showering, you're doing the things you need to do so that you can show up and be present and be doing the things, it's really hard, but it rapidly gets better. It all gets better over time, and it starts out really, really tough and gets rapidly better, still being very hard because, it's a hard thing you're doing. You're raising a human being.
Did I ever tell you about when I was on an airplane once and they were doing the speech thing before you take off, and the guy The guy just slipped in. People were like laughing and kind of going, what? He was talking about like what you just said about you put the mask on yourself. And then he said, if there's not enough masks for your children, to pick the one with the most potential. He said that over the thing.
That's pretty good.
I'm like, wow, that's really brutal. And he didn't break, like he just went right through. And then the other question from Blue Beats was, are we going to discuss any other cube types or cube design heuristics? Probably not. I mean, that's not an episode we wouldn't do, but like, what are we going to do? Go deep on all the, I don't know, common cubes or the all one.
I mean, I think what we could,
I don't know.
I think
maybe
I think I could talk a little more about like, we talk about the arena cube, sometimes the Magic Online cube, sometimes my cube. Those are some different cubes. We probably are not going to talk about like focus on like the Ornithopter cube or Pauper cube or whatever,
right,
unless we really feel the need to do that at some point. But
yeah, maybe a guest would be able to, because like I do like the idea of like all commons or commons and uncommons cube. I find those really, really fun, and they're way cheaper to put together. You can get one together for a couple $100 versus we all know how much vintage cube costs to build. I mean, you're in the thousands. Even if you get not real versions of the cards, it's still a ton of money. So of some of the cards, I mean, anyway, yeah, probably not going to be a focus. Also, I mean, to me, I keep thinking in terms of the power cube / vintage cube. Like we just have so much we want to say about that. And that's way more relevant now, being on both Magic Online and Arena so much. Next comes from Fint the Druid, who says, this question is for Luis regarding vintage cube. With how many new legendary creatures there are, and with the card design having a strong focus on making cards work in Commander, do you think there would ever be a point in the future where you would consider removing Caracas from the cube? Caracas is banned in Commander due to it being a very efficient way to remove an opponent's commander from the battlefield. Is it possible, as the number of legendary creatures in the cube increases, that Caracas would be too good and stifle too many strategies? Thanks to both you and Marshall for the podcast.
Very possible. I would not rule that out at all. Like I don't think that's a crazy thing to think about. Like it is
completely busted.
When you have the game where like your opening hand is like, you've got Questing Beast, you've got like let's say Bristly Bill, you've got like, Lalia, your red-green beats, and you go like turn one elf, and you're just like, oh, we're going to steamroll. And they go, Caracas Ocelot Pride, and you're just like looking at that, you're like, okay, I guess I can play Bristly Bill, play a land, make my tapped elf a 2/2, then they bounce it, hit me, and make a token. I can play Lalia attack, not play the card, and then they bounce the Lalia. My Questing Beast is probably not going to do, and these are even legends that have haste, or in the case of Bill, abilities that happen right away. It can definitely be a demoralizing card, and I certainly don't think it's like, out of the question to think that Caracas might end up just being too unfun. Like, there are not that many cards right now in like a normal vintage cube that aren't in the cube for power level reasons. Time Vault and Demonic Consultation, those are power level reasons. Like, when I say power level, it's a combination of play pattern and power level, but Time Vault and Demonic Consultation are really, really good, and also lead to kind of like, not the most interesting games. Look, I have two cubes, the fully powered cube and then the cube without Consult, Time Vault, and like the initiative creatures. And the drafters on the server actually prefer to Time Vault one more often, which is fine. I think it's really fun. You do more busted stuff. Mm-hmm. I understand why people wouldn't include those. But it's a high bar. So Caracas being cut for like, again, the combination of power level / play pattern, whatever, mix that you want to call that. I could see it happening. I'm not there yet, but I don't think it'd be impossible. Because also, it really sits on creatures, and I really try not to put too much stuff in there that's super hostile to creatures, just because the base nature of the cube is somewhat hostile to creatures. Yeah,
it's weird because normally I'd kind of be all for punishing, people taking or playing more narrow cards like legendary cards, but it's a cube. It's like, they don't really have a choice. Like these are the creatures in the deck that many, especially with the other products like we talked about with Commander and what Finn talked about too. It's like, well, there's just tons of those around. It's not like people can be like, I'm going to play this innovative strategy where I don't play these legendary creatures. Like those are the creatures. They're just the ones in the cube. So they don't really have a choice. Next question comes from Swordsman, who says, Thank you for the LR team continuing to deliver great content. You bet. We had about 15 folks show up to our F&M last week at our local shop. It was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And I'm trying to figure out how to take card evaluation out of Arena and into the local game store, given the pick 2 format with maybe just 4 drafters. It feels like the evaluation of cards and colors changes significantly with a 4-person pod versus the more wide open world of pick 1 8-person drafts in Arena. Am I way off base with that point of view? Feels like we hear heuristics like red is the least draftable color, which may be true for Arena, but falls apart in a very small pod where if you were the only drafter in that color, you know what you're facing for the rest of the night. Are we in a world where real life draft grades or draft archetypes will vary significantly versus Arena? I mean, I don't think real life is really the thing, but I would not draw a big distinction between real life and Arena. There's a difference in quality of players and stuff like that, but the archetypes I would expect to more or less mirror themselves. I don't know about for pick 2 though. There may be a distinction there.
Yeah, I think there is more of a distinction when it comes to pick 2 versus Arena, but versus pick 1 or like normal draft.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest difference between like Arena and real life is that the people in real life are just worse. Like that at most of the places you go to. Obviously, if you curate a draft group, I'm not saying your group of friends who are all fantastic drafters is bad. I'm saying if I go to an F&M in a random store, random city, whatever, like just whatever the average F&M is, and I join an Arena draft, the Arena draft's going to be harder. If I join a Magic Online draft, that'll be harder than that. Yeah. And that's just like kind of a function of the audiences, obviously with some variance, in every direction. In Arena, if you go look at draft 2, Arena Open Day 2 drafts, those are going to be tougher than a random draft. So I think that the question here, what's different between paper and Arena? Well, in paper, I think signals mean a little bit less because people are generally worse. I don't think you need to just drastically change how you draft or anything. Pick 2 is very different. I haven't drafted enough to know all that much. But my guess is, with all this kind of thing though, what cards you should select in a given pack, it basically doesn't change in between any of these things. Like you should try to draft the best thing you can, and most of the time that's not going to be different based on the environment by that much.
No, and I mean even the example given there, if red is considered the worst color, well, that will translate to pick 2. I mean, yes, you might be able to get red, but you still have to make a card or a deck out of the cards that you drafted. And if you go into a deeper color, you'll have more options, and presumably better options as well. So I would assume it translates mostly over. Next comes from Jeremy, who says, Hey guys, I'm so excited for another Q&A episode. You all asked so many great questions. I hope you're doing well. Thank you, Jeremy. Marshall, how's your new venture in the watch repair business going? How did that come about? And and then it says, it sounds like the revivals were going so well you needed help to keep up. It's been cool to see your growth. I'll answer that one. And then Jeremy has some questions for you too, Luis. So yeah, I opened with my friend Alex. We started a website a few years ago to sell toolkits for repairing watches, which is something that I wanted to do in conjunction with my YouTube channel about repairing watches. And then, Jeremy, it's not that basically I just get asked so many times now to fix watches that it was overwhelming. It's not that I wanted to open up a shop to relieve that pressure. It was that I noticed that there's a lot of people in this world who have family heirlooms and they cannot get anybody to work on their watch. And the problem is that I can only work on really a handful of watches a year for the YouTube channel because filming and editing and stuff means that I don't actually fix that many watches over the course of a year. So this business is an attempt to try to fill that gap in the market basically and start it. It's going okay. It is a very tough business for sure. And we are trying to do everything we can to make it fit just right. The toolkit stuff has always done pretty well. It started off well and it's kind of grown from there, but this is much harder. We have 6 full-time watchmakers. We have a director of the shop and then a parts specialist. I mean, we have 10 employees over there now, and that is a very different beast than from when it was just Alex and I, and then maybe one other person shipping out the toolkits. Those are still kind of humming along nicely, and they're more or less supporting the repair side. But it's kind of stressful. Like starting businesses is really hard, and there's a lot of pressure to kind of make everything work. And we are doing our best to do that. And then it says, and then let's see, it sounds like, here we go. Luis, I've enjoyed your love for pre-modern and your videos. A friend of mine introduced me to it a year or two ago, and I have grown to love it as well. A few months ago, I played some games with some of my brothers, and they said it was the most fun they had playing in a 60-card format. One of them has an awesome cube, and that's how they primarily play. The recent growth of pre-modern has done funny things to the card market that has brought up the old reserve list discussion again. Do either of you have any strong opinions about the reserve list? I feel that it could be approached with some nuance. We don't have to get rid of it, but there are some cards that could be removed. Anyway, I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you once again for all you do and keep up the great work. Thank you, Jeremy. We really appreciate you too. You've always been a great supporter of us, and we appreciate these really well thought out questions. Luis, strong opinions on the reserve list?
Well, I wish it I wish it did not exist. I feel like they did kind of back themselves into a bit of a corner with it. Like they're not gonna get rid of it at this point, I don't think. Mm-hmm. And I don't even think like something like, oh, maybe we just adjust it, take a couple of cards off. Like I haven't really researched it. I haven't looked deeply into it, but my guess is that would not fly. I think they're probably gonna stay away from it as best they can. They use some pretty definitive language, and they wanted to craft a strong statement, and they did, for better or for worse. I am generally against that sort of thing. I think that this was a million years ago. It was an overreaction in a new world, in a new game, all that. I understand how that could happen, but I do think I would prefer the reserve list didn't exist. I think more people playing with the cards is better. The other thing, which is kind of funny though, do you know how much a Sheevan Dragon costs? Like a let's say, whatever a recent black bordered Sheevan Dragon. 5 cents. Yeah. Basically free.
Or something. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
An alpha Sheevan Dragon or a beta Sheevan Dragon are in the thousands, and high thousands if it's a good condition, especially if it's an alpha one. Well, that shows to me the reserve list is not particularly protecting Sheevan Dragon in any way, shape, or form. The old Sheevan Dragons are worth a ton. The new ones are not worth anything because Sheevan Dragon's desired as a collectible piece. The old art, the old border, that's what people want. Now, that doesn't hold true for everything. Underground Sea is being shielded by the reserve list because if they reprinted Underground Sea, the prices of like beat revised Underground Seas would drop quite a bit because those are game pieces. People are using those to play games. A beta Underground Sea, it would probably go down, but not by a lot. If in long term, I don't even know that it would. So the reserve list is in a lot of ways not protecting the values of the cards it's intended to protect, but at the same time making it so they can't reprint and get the playable versions into people's hands. Because I think in a world without reserve list, a lot of these iconic old cards would still be worth a lot, and yet people would also get to play with new versions of them. So it's kind of the worst of all worlds right now, and I don't love it.
Yeah, for me, I mean, first foremost, I don't really care, but beyond that, there's only two explanations that make sense to my brain. One of them is that whatever they did put out at that time, and I know what you're talking about, Luis, and it was strongly worded like that they're not going to do that, is legally binding. If that's the case, then it's legally binding and that's going to be that. If it's not, then I assume that the combination of going back on their word, which I don't think they care about. Like, I think people in the building do, but I don't think Hasbro could care. They'd be like, are you kidding me? Like, we could hit this button and make a ton of money. Do it. Like, it's not illegal, right? Maybe it's like not going to be viewed by some members of the community, but like hit the button. Like they've shown over and over.
The scientists explaining to the leadership team at Hasbro, all right, so if you press this button, you'll make a lot of money, but and then they're all just jumping over themselves, pressing it.
Totally.
Like, I didn't tell you the downsides. Like, right. No, it's okay.
Yeah. I mean, and we've seen this, in the last, more recent memory, 10 years, 12 years, whatever, where like, remember when they came out with Secret Lair? That was actually really controversial because that was the first time that Wizards said, we are going to sell singles to players directly. The model before was always we sell sealed product to stores. That product gets opened. Stores sell singles to players or players open them up in their own packs. They were very hesitant to step on the local game stores and to put their toe in the water of, what are you printing here? Are you printing game pieces and then you kind of take your hands off of it, or are you printing money? Right. And they said, well, and if you look at the communication around the very first secret layers, it was very guarded. It was we're only going to do this. We're not going to ever do it for this. These are things we're not going to do. And within 3 years, all of that was gone because it turns out Button makes money. Right. And, and then we saw the same thing with Universes Beyond. Nope, they're not going to be core products for us. They're going to be supplemental always. They said that. You can read that. Right. And then they saw how big they were, and all that's gone. Like that now it's 4 out of 7 sets in the year are Universes Beyond. So, they are very, very willing to, go back on whatever they had said in the past if it turns out it makes them absolute crap tons of money. And so my guess is that they don't think that this will, or it's legally binding in some way and they can't.
Sufficiently legally binding, or at least legally painful. Because
like if they face a class action lawsuit, then they would,
Yeah, they have enough money that I'm sure they could figure something out if they thought it was
right,
incredibly important to do that.
Right, and it just doesn't seem like it is. And that to me, at this point, that was such a different era, such a different thing. And like you said, I don't think it'd really affect that stuff that much anyway. Next up comes from Nikolai Bolas, who says, "Hey guys, my question is about continuing to improve when you were already a great player. I know playing a lot is definitely a factor, as is practice for a specific event or format, but I was wondering if there are other techniques you use to practice and improve your skills. Is the difference between a player like Marshall, who is fantastic but did not play on the Pro Tour, and LSV, who is regarded as one of the best players ever, just that LSV played more, or was there an element that helped Luis improve to an elite level beyond just playing constantly? Obviously, variance is a big factor in results at big events, but seeing younger players like Nathan Stoyer, for example, do so well against players who have been playing for a much longer time makes me wonder if there are elements for skill improvement that I can add to my arsenal aside from just playing the game. Thanks for all you do." Dang, Nikolai Bolas coming in with a great question here. I can give my initial take and then we'll get yours, Luis, because you're going to be more definitive on this, I think. But no, the difference between me and Luis is not just ours. There are definitely other factors that come in. One of them, I would say, is I don't know how you would describe this bucket exactly, but more talent. Luis is better at this stuff than I am at a base level. If we ever look at a new game, I'm slow to pick it up. I usually have a decent ceiling with the stuff, but I'm like, I really have to get my head around what's going on at a base level before I feel like any sense of confidence or, skill at anything like that. Where Luis can pick stuff up really, really fast and then just start running with the ball. So there's a big difference there. Raw processing power. I've seen Luis, and Luis is a special guy, so it's a little unfair, but still just his ability to look at a board state and immediately break down what's important, what's going on, and come up. It reminds me of when you watch chess masters and they go table to table and they just make a move against an opponent at each table and the opponent gets to sit there and think the whole entire time, and they show up and kind of scan the board and make a move and go to the next one. Luis is like that. And so there's that part too. And then I think the other ingredient would be the people around him. Luis, he was friends with Paul Cheon. Paul's a really good gamer. Paul's kind of like me.
I still am, actually.
Yeah. What I meant was friends with him when you were young and when you were in your developing stage for Magic. And, Paul's built a little bit more like me, where he has a really high ceiling, but he builds it up over time. And you guys were able to make that work for each other, by grinding really, really hard. But also Team Channel Fireball came together, right? And all of a sudden, you were surrounded by a really motivated, really talented team of players who helped you form your game, and, rising tides and all that kind of thing happened from there. And I think that, and then the time and effort that you put in. You've played a lot more Magic than me, and I've played a crap ton of Magic in my life, and you've played way more than me. And that's all of those things I think come together to make that. None of those outside of who you surround yourself and how much you play are applicable for Nikolai Bolas's question about like, well, what can I do about it? How do you see it, Luis?
Well, well, first of all, I appreciate the high estimation you seem to hold me in. No, but I think that you're certainly right that it is not just about time. That would be a pretty big error to make, because the best people both played a lot, but also had a lot of other things happening in their direction. Because there's a lot of people who have played near infinite hours of Magic who aren't very good at Magic, which is fine. It's not everyone's even goal to be good at Magic. And I think that you exactly had it right, that the biggest places, the reasons that I think I got good, or other people who I've played with. In fact, Team Channel Fireball is a great example, because when we started the team, it was a mix of people's different accomplishments, but none of us were like when I say Team Channel Fireball, we're talking about myself, Paulo Vitor Damarosa, Brian Kibler, Ben Stark, Shuhei Nakamura, Eric Froelich, Owen Turtenwald, Josh Utter-Layton, every single person I just named is in the Hall of Fame. None of us were in when we started this. Of course, we started well before that. We are in the Hall of Fame, a lot of us, because of the team. I mean, all of us to some degree because of the team, because we all practiced and played together. We would get together for multiple weeks. We did a bunch of stuff that a lot of people don't really have the ability to do just because of time commitments. And none of us would have been able to do that now. Of course, we're all a lot older and in different stages of our lives. But when we were living, breathing, and eating Magic in a room with a lot of other people doing the same thing, that's an incredible crucible in terms of forming like good skills, good fundamentals, really honing the edges and getting all the little, like, you see, Paulo make a play and you ask him, and Paulo's fantastic about telling you why he makes plays. And Paulo has the thing that a lot of people don't have. He just has such a different approach to a lot of what's going on. Like, I remember, people would have a planes in the sideboard for a constructed deck because, you want an additional land in this matchup or because of this. And he's like, well, why don't we cut a card for the main deck to make an extra planes, and then we could always have that sideboard slot for something else, like in a way that I had never heard anyone really think about it from exactly that direction. And I really think that like number one in my development was Channel Fireball, like the team. Number two was Magic Online, and number three was living with Cheon. And it's not to say that living with Cheon was the least important of those, but I think it set those things up. And in fact, me and Cheon living together and playing tons of Magic Online specifically is where we got good enough that we were able to even form the team, because at that point, I had the reputation and the kind of accomplishments to gather other people who. Basically, all of us were kind of near the beginning of our career, but like some of us more than others. Like Paulo at this point had more accomplishments than the rest of the team, but we were still early on enough in our career that we were looking for this, and we found it, and we were able to test together. And what you can do now, like I'm assuming people listening are not in a position or have the desire to go for 2 weeks to test before a Magic tournament. That's not very realistic. I mean, Discord is an amazing tool for connection. I have been really impressed with it. Make a Discord of your friends who like to play Magic or join one or whatever, find in a community and find people who like to do Discord calls where you play Magic and you watch each other play and you talk about the plays. That's going to be a really good way to simulate a lot of what we're talking about here. And you just basically, you have to have the time, you have to have the desire, you have to have the opportunity. You want to find people. You don't want to be the best player in your group, it's kind of like you don't want to always be the smartest person in the room, because it means you're not in the right rooms. Like when we all got together and tested, like, I don't know who was the best of us or who ended up being the best, whatever. Paulo, I guess, is probably the best player to come out of that. I think I'm probably not that far behind. We all made each other better. It wasn't about who was the best. It was about figuring out like, what does everyone have to offer, and what do they have to say, and what do they think about things. And I think that that's like the biggest key to success, is finding like-minded people who you can talk to and get information from and bounce plays off of and all that.
Yeah. If you're feeling like you're starting to top out Nikolai Bolas, that's 100% the next step. Next question comes from Ryan, who says, thanks for all the work you do on the podcast. It's definitely made me a stronger player. Awesome. I have a question about deck construction and high-stakes tournaments. I recently played in one of the limited championship qualifiers, and it was a 500 plus person sealed event. Normally, I would focus on playing my best cards, but balancing that against having a consistent deck, good mana curve, good mana base, removal, etc. But in an event where you effectively have to win 7 of your 8 matches, are you supposed to get greedy? Like, should you splash a few more powerful cards at the expense of your mana base and hope that you draw well? At the end of deck construction, I was left with a deck that I thought was solid, but I knew there was no way that I was going to be able to get 6 or 7 wins with it against the 15% of the crowd or whatever that opened the busted pools. This is kind of a long-standing question, Luis, about whether you should, about this concept of, do I take on more variance if I feel that I need to have a particularly high win rate? The answer is no, right? Like, win rate is win rate, right? You make the best deck that you can, and the best means the one with the highest win rate. And the reason, Ryan, that your inclination is to make a deck that has a balance of good mana, good curve, the best cards you can put in there, removal and everything, is because that is, generally speaking, the one that provides the highest win rate. And that is what you should do even in a 500-person event. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's some world, Luis, where if you're going to play one round or something and you knew you were outmatched by your opponent, maybe you just go for it and hope to draw well or something. I don't know. There is strategic value in the short term to upping variance if you are outmatched by your opponent. This is something that people in poker do, but that is also very much just taking less overall win rate for a chance to actually win. And when we approach Magic tournaments and drafts and all the events that we do, that isn't the mentality that we want to take in. We want to view it as kind of one big event that, begins and ends every once in a while, but that you're just trying to carry the best win rate you can from event to event. What do you think, Luis?
I mean, I think generally you're correct. And I think people way overdo it on the side of like, oh, I'm at a disadvantage, better increase variance. It is true that there's an element of truth to that. If you play against LeBron James, you're not going to win in basketball.
Right.
But maybe your best chance to win is taking half court shots over and over again and just hoping to hit 3 in a row or some
Where if I just go
like
dribble, 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 shoot, he's 6'9", 260. Like, good luck,
But when it comes to Magic, most of the time, I would say that you're better off trying to just enact the best strategy possible, which is to say, don't draft differently in the top 8. You don't need to do that. But there are times, an example is like, look, overall, you want to just be constantly practicing and trying to do the best thing you can, because that long-term will ultimately set you up the best. It is true though, like if you're going to play in a, like, let's say you qualified for the World Championship, like back when it was like a 32 player tournament, and you maybe you really got lucky, and the other 31 players are like established pros, and then there's you, right? You're like, weekend warrior or whatever, like Marshall Sutcliffe. Let's just say you randomly played in a thing, and you top 8 at a GP, played at the regional championships and won it, and you're like queued for Worlds, and you're just like, right. Well, this is cool, but everyone else here really is better than me, right? There, maybe, yes, you should play the mono red burn deck instead of playing the control deck, because realistically, you play against Nathan Stoyer, your win percentage is going to be higher playing a burn deck than a control deck, just because of the virtue of how the cards work. It's you're compressing the decision space, you're making the game shorter, you're making fewer different things matter. You can beat Nathan in those kind of games a lot more easily than a Psychotog mirror. Really, you're not going to beat him doing that.
Right.
But most of the time, if you're playing at a PTQ and you think like, well, I'm not as good as the best players, it's like, yeah, you should still play the deck you think is overall best. And at the very least, you'll learn how to play that deck better. Most of the time, that's what you should be doing. There are a few rare situations where, yes, you should take the like high variance route or whatever.
Right. And I think that, I think the examples that we both gave are really good here, but they also illustrate an important point, which is that it has to be really bad for you.
Right. I had to use a pretty convoluted example.
Right.
To
where
get
it's
us there.
like, right, where I'm going to play some like super drawn out mirror against Nathan Stoyer, or I have to play LeBron one-on-one. Okay, I'm going to take some uncharacteristic lines of play to try to do that, because I really don't fare well in either of those scenarios, generally speaking. But if it's like, this isn't my best matchup, well, tough it out. Like you got to learn how to play the dang thing, right? And if you're only giving up a few percentage points, going for some, moonshot thing is a bailout, and I would not do it. Udion says, "Hi guys, I love the show, and the episodes are a consistent highlight of my week." Oh, that's very nice. I've been playing Magic for a while, but my partner is relatively new. One thing I've noticed is how the aspects of the game that we enjoy differ quite a bit. For example, recognizing the difference between dies and exile might be standard to an experienced player, but can feel like a great aha moment for a newer player. My question is, how has your enjoyment of Magic changed over time, both as you have become more experienced in the game and grown in your personal lives? That's a nice question.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting. Certainly when I first started playing, I was not doing the similar things to, like, we were just playing with all our cards. We were like, all right, well, this is
like my Snake Basket deck, right?
Right. This is a deck of me playing all of my cards in it.
Yeah.
And that's
my Snake Basket deck didn't have 4 Snake Baskets because I didn't have 4 of them. Like that was the whole deck revolved around it,
Right. So we're in a very different world. I think the biggest thing, honestly, is I used to play casual Magic against my friends all the time. That's how we played it. We didn't even call it casual Magic because it wasn't. That was just Magic. My buddy Seth would come over and we'd play a bunch of Magic. Mm-hmm. At this point now, I don't think I've never played a game against Sam Pardee where we're like, hey, do you want to play a game of Magic? Let me pull out some decks and we'll play a game.
And we'll just goof around. Yeah.
That's just not really how we interact with the game. But I've played a lot more Magic with my friends now but one of us is playing and we're all watching. Like a very common thing, I'll have, some of the gang over for dinner, right? I'll be grilling, especially as we're getting into summer. This is great. And someone will just go to my computer in the living room, fire up a draft, put it on the TV, and we all watch it. And that's awesome, especially while you're doing something else. In fact, I love it when I get BK to do a draft so I can hang out during the draft portion and then go do whatever I want while he has to play the games.
Well, he pumps away the games, yeah.
And then when he loses round 1, I try to convince him to drop and draft again. This is a tale as old as time.
Yeah.
So I guess that's probably one of the biggest things is I went from playing Magic against my friends to playing Magic with my friends at a much higher rate because we find that to be a little bit more captivating.
Yeah, for me, it hasn't really changed much. I mean, I've always, it's been a combination of like competitive outlet plus I like to try to figure stuff out. And that's very much still what it is. That's why when a new draft format comes out, I'm still like, all right, what do we got? What do we got? I think the way that I enjoy it is different in that I'm much more business now. Like, just give me the cards. Like, I don't get caught up in spoiler season. I don't even really keep up with stuff. I'm just like, what's in front of me? And then what's the next thing? And it sounds weird because I have a podcast about Magic and Luis always teases me about being kind of out of the loop, but I actually prefer it because it makes it more novel to me when the cards come out rather than knowing half the set, before I draft. I mean, in our case, we do the set review before the drafts come out of the commons and uncommons. So I guess I do kind of know half the set. But back in the day, I used to know that stuff like right when it hit the internet. And nowadays, it's a little more like I want to talk about some of the cards and see them for the first time on the show. And I want to react to how they come out and try to keep that novel because if anything, it feels like Magic and many things in life have gone this direction, has become overly saturated with information where a little bit more of the mystery and the surprise and stuff, I think makes it a little more fun. Next question is from Jeremy who says, still super new to Magic, but getting introduced to the limited format and by extension, your podcast has made this an incredible journey into a new hobby. Awesome, Jeremy. Welcome. Thank you all, Marshall, Luis, and Paul for all your hard work and the enlightening perspectives you share. You're welcome. My question is about blocking. On both your podcast and during PT broadcasts, I've heard you talk about blocking mistakes. We would love to hear the general rules of thumb you use to decide when and how to block and what you see as the most common blocking mistakes that players make. I think, the really common line of play that you'll see in limited is somebody will tap out to play a creature, then the other person untaps and then attacks with an attack that is either a trade or maybe even not. Maybe it's just I'm running my creature into yours. And that decision point comes up all the time. Do I block or not? If I block, and my opponent wasn't bluffing, and most of the time people don't bluff, then what do I get out of it? And if I don't block, then what happens? And this is a really common thing because the play pattern among experienced players is often, or maybe not experienced, maybe like semi-experienced players will be.
They know just enough to be dangerous to themselves.
Exactly. I play my creature. I say, go. You attack me. My thought process is, well, I don't want to block because if you have a combat trick, you're going to win this combat and I don't want to lose my creature. So no blocks. Then on my turn, I play my land and I'm going to be crafty and I say go. And I'm like, ha ha ha. When they attack this next time, now I'm going to block and I have my removal spell. And if they go for a pump spell, I'm going to get them. And then of course they don't attack into that, right? This sequence happens all the time. And what it really does is force a decision sooner. So as a more experienced player, when my opponent attacks me, they're 2-2 into my 2-3 and I'm tapped out, I'm more thinking like, if I block, do I really care about losing this 2-3? Like, is it a big deal? Is this one of my best cards? And if it's not, I kind of don't mind it. Sure, I let them leverage a pump spell as a little bit more of a removal spell than anything, but they have to tap mana. And they still are only trading one card for one card. And oftentimes they then look at the board and look at their hand and they're like, okay, go. And you're like, all right, so I got kind of a tempo swing back in my direction. Yes, I lost my creature, but you're still down a card and you didn't get to develop your board. If the creature isn't that important, that's a trade-off I'll often take. It also prevents you from being bluffed because once you get the reputation for being the person that just blocks in that situation all the time, then eventually they stop doing
whatever
it.
the opposite of a calling station is.
Yeah. Well, it is a calling station. Yeah. Because I'm just they're like attack, you're like call block, right? Yeah. So that's one thing that comes up a lot, and then the other one I think that comes up a lot is when you should block with more than one creature. And, there's obvious times to do that when your one creature wouldn't otherwise trade for the thing that's attacking. That's when it really comes up. But there are also other times to block with multiple creatures. If you have a lifelink creature, and that's not the one that you anticipate them actually assigning the damage to, you can just block with it and get a couple of extra life thrown in there.
I actually have a quick story about that.
Yeah,
back when I was working on Eternal, if you've ever played that, that's a digital card game made by Direwolf. It's actually what I moved to Denver kind of to do.
Yeah,
many years ago. We made kind of, I don't want to call it AI, but you know what I mean. Like we made it so the program learned how to play Eternal because there's single player mode, right? Mm-hmm. And
just like algorithmically,
it was actually really funny that Dan Burdick, he ended up being the leader of play design over at Wizards. But when he was at Direwolf, he was the one working on that. He would actually constantly ask me what I would do in a situation when he was writing the framework for this. But one of the plays it made that impressed me so much was once it blocked a 5/5 with a 7/7 and a 1/1 lifelinker. Or sorry, it blocked a 7/7 with a 7/7 and a 1/1 lifelinker. So the 7/7's traded and it gained 1 life. And I was like, oh, yeah, no, that is a really good play. That's something people do not do enough for sure.
Right. Because what are they going to do? Like use a removal spell on your 7/7 after blocks? And then, you threw away your 1/1. That isn't how it works. They would have just killed your 7/7 up front. So yeah, those are some of the things that come up the most often for me with blocking, Jeremy, and something to keep an eye out for. A couple more questions. This one comes from John. Hey, Marcel and LSV, I'm trying to capture the powered cube, vintage cube experience points for an in-person play group. What tweaks would you suggest for card/combo inclusions for drafting in person versus virtual? Also, if we typically have 4 drafters, what would you recommend to ensure that we see enough cards to assemble combos and strategies appropriately? You need more than 4.
You can definitely do vintage cube with 4.
No, I know you can
players.
play it, but if you're trying to see enough cards so that you're trying to do a lot of the typical 2 or 3 card combos, that's going to get rough.
Well, what I would do is one of the things we would often do is do draft 4 packs of 12 or 5 packs of 10. Mm-hmm. So you're not only seeing slightly more cards. 5 packs of 10 is 50 cards. You're getting more first picks, and
okay, good tip.
That can be pretty exciting. So I don't mind doing that. I think that's a reasonable way to go about it. I also, if you end up doing teams, do teams afterwards, so people aren't incentivized to hate draft as much during the draft. I think that can be kind of interesting. Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are like the main things. I've played a lot of four-person cubes. They're very fun. They work out totally fine.
Okay. But what about getting the experience points? Is this a good way to do it? I guess is what I'm asking.
Yeah, it's fine. It's
you're still getting
close
reps.
enough.
Okay.
You're still getting reps. I think it's not ideal, but it's still totally, you're not going to notice a difference really.
Next up is Nick, who says, I was glad to hear in a recent sign off that Luis is a fellow Slay the Spire enjoyer. Is there anything that the Magic devs could learn from the fun and design success of Slay the Spire in its recent awesome early access sequel? I understand the answer may be no, given how different the genres are, but I figured I'd pose the question.
Oh, I mean, certainly there's a lot they could learn. Slay is a really well-designed game.
Who makes it?
Mega Crit, but it was basically made by like one guy, as far as I know, or at least a very small team, the original one.
One of those games.
Yeah, it's an indie game that again got really popular and because it's really good, mostly. Mm-hmm. I'd have to think of what, I'm not sure exactly what that would look like, but I mean, you can learn something from pretty much everyone, whether it's a positive or a negative. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was a lot they could learn there.
Ken says, after the set has been sunsetted, how do you store your cards? For your more valuable, memorable cards, do you treat them differently than bulk, aka put them in a binder versus a storage box? This is a question for past Marshall, because I basically never end up with any paper cards anymore. Or if I do, it's some random sealed product that I got when I was commentating a PT or, something like that. And it's in a box. So I just put a box on a shelf, that type of thing. But back in the day, especially when I was keeping up with standard, like trying to have, play sets of stuff so that I could build standard decks when I was PT queuing. This is a long time ago, but I had binders. I really liked doing any binder that I could comfortably enough fit 4 copies of a card into. Once I put that in there, then I knew that I had the 4, so I had a play set, and then extra ones could be sold or given away or whatever. But I was big on binders, and then for anything that I thought that might be standard playable and that I'd want to have access to. And then boxes for the rest is what I did. What did you do, Luis?
It would literally disgust people if they saw how I keep my cards. I have a cabinet that is, first of all, it's locked, but somewhat reachable by the children. So that's the first strike against it, especially the older, more clever ones. Though I do believe the intersection of can figure out how to unlock this cabinet and would not randomly destroy cards is pretty strong. So, okay. I'm not that worried about that. But it's a bunch of shelves. There's a bunch of kind of like those long Ultimate Guard boxes that have effectively random assortments of cards. Like literally you can grab a scoop and you'll look through and you're like, okay, well, this is half of a March of the Machines draft deck from the Pro Tour. This was what looks like a deconstructed modern Yawgmoth deck. Here's a beta Time Vault. You scroll back a little. Okay. And then now here is 17 elemental tokens.
Oh no,
that's not it. There's also piles of just straight up cards in there, not in boxes or anything. And they get knocked down all the time. It's ridiculous. At one point I was opening and I was looking through it and I'm like, oh, this is where this modern deck went. Cool. Or I have one box in there that's the White Weenie deck I lost in the finals of the PT with. I haven't taken anything out. It's just the whole deck right there.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's bad though. I really need to organize my cards at some point because it's like right now someone's like, hey, do you have Force of Wills? I'd be like, oh yeah, let me look through every single card I own, then I'll find them. That's basically the way it goes. It's not ideal.
If only we were sponsored by a company that makes a bunch of great products to help organize your cards. Although I guess they don't come out to your house and do it for you. All right, that's the end of our questions for the Q&A. Thank you so much for everybody for support for putting your questions in. We really appreciate it. And thanks, of course, for supporting us on our Patreon as well. And also thank you to Ultimate Guard for their support of the show. If you have a similar question like Ken about figuring out how to organize your cards, they are going to have a product over at ultimateguard.com to help you reach your goals with organizing your cards in a rational manner rather than how Luis decides to do it. We also want to say that you can follow us on social media, Marshall_LR, and Luis is LSV pretty much everywhere. And if you want to find everything related to the podcast, it's at lrcast.com, including a link to Luis's YouTube channel. And if you're a Slay the Spire fan, he does have a few videos up on that, as well as Another Galaxy? What is it?
Once Upon a Galaxy.
Once Upon a Galaxy.
That's another game I've been getting into for sure.
Yeah. And and of course, Cube and other Magic stuff up there as well. So you can also just search for LSV on YouTube itself. That is going to do it for this one. We'll see you next week. Luis, you got to sign off for us?
I thought we were going to do Q&A here.
We are.
Oh, okay.
We can make that the sign off if you want.
Yeah, I guess that'll be a bonus thing. For some reason, I thought that's what was next. So that's where I was at.
Okay. I was just going to do it for them, but yeah, we might as well. All right. So anybody in the chat on our Ultimate Guard stream here, if you have any questions, we got a few minutes to kill here. I don't know if anybody has anything there. Oh, man. This cold just won't let go. Yeah, I don't know what happened, by the way, Luis, with the signal there in the middle of the show.
You were out for a bit. I don't know.
I think you were.
Oh, I was?
I think we all were. It might have been a Discord thing.
Ah, okay. You definitely were from my perspective, Luis, but
you both were from my perspective.
Okay,
yeah.
I was only looking at Marshall, so I guess that probably explains that then.
Yeah, I think you kept talking, so hopefully we have a recording of that.
I did. I didn't stop talking.
Yeah, that was good. That was good.
Story of my life, but Juiced says, what's the biggest learning point for picking up team cube drafting versus regular pod drafting? That's actually a really good question. There's a lot. I wrote an article on this at some point on Channel Firewall. You might be able to Google and find it. It was a while ago. But the biggest difference is it's an adversarial process where when you pass them a good card and they take it, that's just straight up bad for you. Whereas you should basically not hate draft in an 8-player draft. Like under very, very rare circumstances, is it good at all? But let me give you an example. I actually had a recent draft where I opened a Mox Jet and a Force of Will as the two best cards. And I'm going to take the Mox Jet there every time. That's obviously what you should do. But I knew the player I passed to took the Force of Will, and I took mana drain second pick, and I, basically tried to cut blue because I correctly, as it turns out, thought that they were going to take Force of Will and go into blue. They ended up drafting a Jeskai deck. So it's not like I was able to completely screw their deck, but I, during the draft, try to kind of, both by looking at what I passed and what's been passed to me, figure out what the people around me are doing, because there will come a pack where it's like there's 4 cards left, there's no cards for your deck, there's a Llanowar Elf, and there is a Mother of Runes, let's say. You have to know which one you want to hate draft, and you don't have the answer for sure, but if you're pretty sure they're playing white, Mother of Runes is definitely the card to take. If you're pretty sure they're playing green, you'd rather hate the Elf. In the vacuum, I'd hate Mother of Runes because it's much better than Llanowar Elf, so you just default to not taking the good card. But it's kind of a disaster if you hate the wrong card and then pass them a good card and kind of hate it from your teammate. So you do have to kind of try to figure this out. The other thing is, let's say you see a pack and there's 2 good blue cards and 1 good black card left. Well, it makes more sense to hate the black card because if they're playing black, you hated a card. If they're playing blue, well, they'll just take the other blue card. It doesn't really help. And this way, you at least maybe pass your teammate a good blue card if they're in blue. And overall, there is a lot of complexity to it, but the kind of the short version is that you are trying to manage the cards you pass to benefit them the least.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest, because once you understand that it's zero sum, okay, you can kind of view the world that way. But the trick, or the thing that pops up the most often, is trying to figure out what it is because it's such a huge benefit, right? If you can pass a pretty strong card and get it through to your teammate or force them to hate draft it, right? And that leads to very unintuitive picks sometimes. Are there any new recipes that you've been enjoying in the past few months? I have. I found some really good new stuff, Luis.
What'd you get?
I think I told you about it, but the one that I would highlight, Zluity, is a Korean beef dish. And I've been doing, I use my wok a lot, like I'm a big wok guy. And so I'll make stir fries of different types, very versatile, right? Some meat, some vegetables, steam up some rice, and you're good to go. And and it's decently healthy. It tastes good, etc. But the one thing that I was kind of missing was which kind of meat, the different types of meat that I would have. So I'd have like chicken or pork, fish, or shrimp or something like that. But I would also frequently have a bit of ground beef. Normally, I would use that for like spaghetti. But I found a recipe for like gochujang beef. But it said it was really easy, and the person who put it up said like she eats it 3 or 4 times a week or something, and just as like a go-to kind of meal preppy lunch thing. And I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And I made it, and it's awesome. It's also the easiest of all the things that I had it actually today before we went live today. And that is definitely like, you know, when you find a recipe that's a keeper where you're like, this tastes really good. It's not too hard to make. Like I could see myself eating this once a week or whatever. It was one of those. And I have definitely done that. I've made it for other people too, and they've really liked it. So that's
one of the ones that's been popular in my household recently is the jambon beurre sandwich, which is the classic French sandwich of just like a good baguette. You spread some butter on it. You put just some thin sliced ham. And then if you want, you can put a slice of cheese, but often, you know, I make a lot of dinners. I'm actually a bit of a short order cook here at home because we have the combination of the kids and Gabby's dad's visiting and all this. Like, I'm making a bunch of different meals because I don't mind doing that. And the kids have different, you know, they're at different stages in terms of what they enjoy eating. But this one is a pretty consistent hit. And the key is just get good ingredients. And that's like a good thing you should be doing anyways, obviously, to the degree you can. But like baguette, for example, a really good baguette here in Denver, you can get for like $4 to $5. You can get a decent one for like $3, and you can get like kind of a mediocre one from like, you know, Safeway or whatever grocery store for like $2 or, you know, $1.50. I think it's worth paying a little bit more because the quality goes up quite a bit, and we're not talking about a particularly expensive item. And so if you have good bread and you have, you know, just butter, I mean, obviously you can get really good butter, but I have found butter is like, once you're just dealing with real butter, the quality isn't like drastically different when you pay a whole lot more. So I tend to kind of go middle of the road on that. And then ham is that's one where I do like getting one from like a butcher that's really good, as opposed to like you know, the one that has like a bunch of like, you know, sodium solution injected and all that stuff. But if you're dealing with a list of 3 ingredients and they're good ingredients and you put them together, that's a really good meal. You don't have to get super fancy or try very hard, in my opinion.
Poison Akko wants to know how we feel about the small sets, the pick 2 sets after Spider-Man. They were very pessimistic, but after Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, I have changed my mind. Yeah, we talked about that at the very beginning of the episode that we just recorded here. And yeah, we feel the same way. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle seems to be, you know, a good version of these small sets. I still would just prefer bigger sets because they're deeper, more interesting. But if we're going to have small sets, this is how you do it. Like, there's definitely some care put into this set. It's held up just fine. And it seems to be a totally reasonable format. And that, of course, isn't true for Spider-Man. Okay, let's call it there, Luis. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out with us in the chat. We really appreciate it. And we'll be back next month. We do one of these per month here on Ultimate Guard. And then we do the live behind-the-scenes recording every show for Patreon as well.